They say buying a new car feels like starting a new relationship. Everything runs smooth, everything sounds right, and nothing seems wrong. For the first few years, your car feels loyal, reliable, almost invincible. And mechanics agree on one thing. The first 3 years are the honeymoon phase. After that, wear doesn't announce itself loudly. It starts quietly, invisibly, deep inside components you never look at. And by the time you notice a problem, the damage is already done. That's exactly why this list matters. What you're about to hear isn't superstition or shop talk. These are the real checks professional mechanics automatically perform once a car passes the 3-year mark. Do them, and your car keeps behaving like it's still young. Ignore them, and one day you'll be that driver stuck on the shoulder wondering what went wrong. So, let's begin. These are the 12 things you must do if your car is over 3 years old and you don't want it to start failing. Number 12. Inspect and replace all filters. Once a car passes 3 years, its filters are no longer getting dirty. Many are already at the end of their effective life. The engine air filter slowly restricts airflow, forcing the engine to work harder and burn more fuel just to breathe. The cabin filter stops trapping moisture and dust, turning your interior into a foggy, smelly environment. But the most dangerous one is the fuel filter. When it begins to clog, it silently strains the fuel pump, reducing performance and shortening the pump's lifespan. Filters don't fail when they look dirty. They fail when they restrict flow. That's the real danger most drivers miss. Air filters should be replaced every 20 to 30,000 kilometers, cabin filters yearly, and fuel filters around 40 to 60,000 kilometers depending on the vehicle. Ignore them past year 3 and power drops, fuel consumption rises, and expensive failures follow. As mechanics say, a cheap filter can protect a very expensive engine. Number 11. Check the real condition of your battery. Most drivers think a battery is either good or dead. But modern batteries don't fail like a light bulb. They fade. And that fade often starts in year 2. By year 3, it's completely normal for a battery to be operating at 60 to 70% of the capacity it had when it was new. Yes, many batteries can last 3 to 5 years, but that doesn't mean they're healthy the whole time. It just means they're surviving. Here's the dangerous part. A weak battery rarely gives you one obvious warning sign. It whispers. Your headlights come on a little slower. The starter sounds slightly lazier. Your radio resets once in a while. Your power windows creep up instead of snapping up. And most people ignore those signals because the car still starts, for now. But modern cars run on electronics just as much as they run on fuel. When battery voltage drops, sensors and modules don't always behave normally. You can get random glitches, warning lights, strange error messages, start-stop systems acting weird, even driver assist features acting up. And it gets worse. When the battery is weak, the alternator has to work harder to keep it charged. That extra strain can shorten alternator life, and replacing an alternator is usually far more expensive than replacing a battery on time. That's why mechanics recommend basic testing starting at the 3-year mark: voltage test, load test, and terminal inspection. A battery reading 12.3 volts is already weak. One that drops toward 11.9 under load is basically a time bomb. And if you think it starts fine, so it's fine, remember, you can run a marathon with a fever too. That doesn't mean you're healthy. And now that you know what a weak battery can secretly do, the next check becomes even more serious. Because stopping power is one system you never want to gamble with. Number 10. Inspect the entire brake system, not just the pads. Once a car passes 3 years, the brake system is almost never in the same condition it was when it left the dealership. The biggest hidden issue is brake fluid. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture from the air over time. After year 3, that moisture begins to lower its boiling point. Under heat or repeated braking, this causes a softer pedal and longer stopping distances, especially dangerous in traffic or on highways. Then there are the brake pads. Wear isn't always visible from the outside. Pads often wear unevenly, harden, or glaze over, even when they still look okay. Inside pads can be far thinner than the outer ones. Rotors also change with time. Slight warping, light vibration while braking, or a faint metallic hum are early signs many drivers ignore. A proper brake inspection isn't just a glance through the wheel. It means checking pad thickness on both sides, rotor condition, caliper movement, fluid quality, and pedal feel. Because when brakes fail, there's no warning countdown. One hard stop is all it takes. Drivers often say they still brake fine. But brakes don't fail gradually when you need them most. They fail suddenly, and no driving skill can compensate for lost stopping power at highway speed. That's why mechanics insist every car over 3 years old needs regular brake system checks, even if nothing feels wrong. And now that stopping power is covered, the next system is just as critical, because overheating can destroy an engine in minutes. Number 9. Inspect cooling system hoses and clamps. After the 3rd year, the cooling system is no longer like new, even if the car has low mileage. Rubber hoses age with time, not just distance. They slowly lose flexibility, harden, and develop internal micro-cracks that you can't see from the outside. These cracks allow tiny coolant leaks that often evaporate instantly from engine heat, leaving no puddle and no obvious warning. As coolant slowly drops, the engine's ability to control temperature weakens. And overheating doesn't always show up as a red needle on the gauge. Sometimes the engine runs just hot enough to accelerate wear without triggering a warning light. Clamps are another underestimated problem. Years of heat cycles reduce their tension. A clamp that loosens even slightly can allow air into the system or let a hose shift under pressure. Air pockets in the cooling system are dangerous. They disrupt coolant flow and can cause sudden overheating under load. This is why mechanics don't just look, they feel the hoses. Squeezing them reveals whether they're too hard, too soft, or internally swollen. It's a simple check most drivers never do, yet it can prevent a blown hose, warped head, or roadside breakdown. Ignore this inspection, and one hot day, one uphill climb, and one weak hose can turn a normal drive into steam pouring from under the hood. And that's a failure that almost always could have been prevented in 5 minutes. Next up is the fluid that makes this entire system work, and it's not designed to last forever. Number 8. Check the condition of the coolant, not just the level. Many drivers believe coolant lasts forever. It doesn't. From the 3rd or 4th year, coolant slowly loses its anti-corrosion and anti-foaming properties. When that protection fades, internal metal surfaces, radiator channels, the water pump, thermostat housing, and even internal passages start to corrode quietly. The scary part is how subtle the early signs are. The engine may run slightly warmer. The cooling fan might activate more often. You might notice a faint sweet smell under the hood. By the time those symptoms appear, corrosion particles may already be circulating through the system. Old coolant also loses its boiling point. That means the engine can reach critical temperatures without technically overheating. Heat just isn't being carried away efficiently anymore. Over time, this stresses the head gasket and increases the risk of expensive engine damage that many people blame on bad luck. Mechanics check coolant color and clarity. Brown, cloudy, or particle-filled coolant means contamination. But even coolant that still looks clean may already be chemically exhausted. That's why most professionals recommend replacing it every 2 to 3 years, depending on the formula. Using the wrong coolant, mixing colors, or topping off with plain water speeds up damage even faster. Think of coolant like blood in a medical test. If your car is over 3 years old, it deserves to be checked. Because once corrosion starts, it doesn't stop on its own. And now that cooling is covered, the next system affects safety, handling, and electronics all at once. Number 7. Inspect the suspension system for time-based wear. The suspension works every second your car is moving, even when the road feels smooth. After 3 years, wear starts showing up not just from mileage but from time, temperature changes, potholes, speed bumps, and daily driving stress. Many drivers assume that if there are no loud clunks or squeaks, the suspension must be fine. That's a mistake. Rubber bushings slowly dry out and lose elasticity. When they stop absorbing vibration, tiny impacts travel directly into metal components, accelerating wear across the entire front end. Ball joints can develop internal play without making noise, and shock absorbers can lose damping efficiency even if they're not leaking. As suspension performance drops, tires begin to bounce instead of staying planted. Braking distances increase, cornering stability decreases, and wet road traction becomes less predictable. The car may still feel okay, but it no longer reacts the way it was engineered to. There's also a hidden electronic effect. Stability control and traction systems rely on predictable wheel movement. When suspension components loosen, sensors receive inconsistent data. Systems may activate too early, or worse, fail to intervene when they should. Uneven tire wear, vague steering, and reduced control during emergency maneuvers are all signs of suspension aging. That's why mechanics prioritize suspension inspections after year 3. Time-based wear is unavoidable, and ignoring it can make a 3-year-old car behave like it's 10 years older. And now we move to a system that determines whether your car even starts tomorrow. Number 6. Inspect the charging system, especially the alternator. After 3 years, the battery isn't the only component under stress. The alternator quietly determines whether your car starts reliably or shuts down without warning. Most drivers assume that if the engine starts, the charging system is fine. In reality, an alternator can weaken slowly and fail suddenly. A healthy alternator should maintain 13.8 to 14.4 volts while the engine is running. When output drops below that range, it struggles to power lights, climate control, infotainment, power steering, and all modern electronics. The battery silently compensates for this deficit, which is why many people blame the battery when it dies, when the real culprit is the alternator. Early warning signs are subtle. Headlights that look slightly yellow, a brief dashboard flicker when turning on the AC, or idle speed dipping when accessories are active. These symptoms are easy to ignore, but they signal wear in the voltage regulator, internal coils, or bearings. If the battery light flickers during acceleration or you notice a faint hot electrical smell after driving, the alternator is asking for attention. City driving makes this worse due to constant stop-and-go cycles. When an alternator fails while driving, the car can shut off completely. No steering assist, no electronics, no restart. That's why checking the charging system after year 3 isn't optional. It's basic survival maintenance. Next, we move to a system that directly affects how your engine breathes and responds. Number 5. Clean the throttle body and critical air sensors. After the 3rd year, dirt buildup inside the intake system starts causing problems that feel serious but usually aren't. The throttle body controls how much air enters the engine. Over time, oil vapor, carbon residue, and dust coat the internal plate. When that happens, idle becomes unstable. The car may hesitate when accelerating, shake slightly at stops, or feel like it's breathing unevenly. Many drivers immediately assume engine trouble. In reality, it's often just restricted airflow. The problem grows when the MAF or MAP sensors get dirty. These sensors are the engine's eyes. They tell the computer how much fuel to inject. When their readings are off, the mixture becomes too rich or too lean. Fuel economy drops, throttle response feels delayed, and the check engine light may appear. Modern engines recirculate vapors into the intake for emissions control, which creates a sticky film over time. By year 3, light contamination is completely normal. Symptoms include jerking on hills, sluggish response, and rough cold starts. None of these mean the engine is failing. They mean the sensors are overdue for cleaning. Using the proper cleaner restores smooth, idle, sharper throttle response and correct fuel mixture without replacing parts. Mechanics routinely check this after 3 years because buildup starts quietly but accelerates fast if ignored. Next up is the only part of your car that actually touches the road, and it ages faster than most people realize. Number 4. Inspect tire condition, including the manufacturing date. When a car turns 3 years old, most people focus on the engine, battery, and fluids. Very few think about the tires, even though they're the only contact between your car and the road. Tires don't age by mileage alone. They age by time, temperature, and exposure. Rubber compounds slowly harden as they oxidize. Even if tread depth looks good, grip can already be compromised. The most dangerous part is that old tires often look perfectly fine at a glance. Every tire has a DOT code on the sidewall that shows its manufacturing week and year. Many drivers are shocked to discover their tires are already 4 or 5 years old, even if they were installed only 2 years ago. That happens because tires can sit in storage for years before being sold. After year 3, hardened rubber loses wet traction, increases braking distance, vibrates more at speed, and becomes more prone to blowouts. Tiny sidewall cracks, called microcracks, form quietly and are often overlooked. There's also air pressure. As tires age, valve stems harden and leak more easily. Low pressure raises internal temperature, increases fuel consumption, and dramatically raises failure risk. Pressing the rubber lightly, checking sidewalls, confirming dot age, and monitoring pressure reveals whether tires are still safe or just look safe. Old tires are like stale food. They appear fine, but fail when it matters most. And now we reach the systems that truly decide whether your car ages gracefully or starts failing fast. Number 3. Inspect the transmission, automatic or manual. The transmission is one of the most ignored and most expensive systems in any car. After 3 years, internal wear begins quietly. Clutches, bands, valves, gears, and synchronizers age without obvious warning signs. That's what makes transmission failures so expensive. They rarely announce themselves early. The first thing to check is transmission fluid. In automatics, healthy fluid should be reddish or pink and smell slightly sweet. When it turns dark brown or smells burnt, it has lost its lubricating ability. Despite what many manuals claim, lifetime fluid usually means warranty lifetime, not vehicle lifetime. City driving, heat, and stop-and-go traffic accelerate fluid breakdown. As viscosity drops, shifts become harsher, engagement is delayed, and small vibrations appear under acceleration. A common symptom is shudder between 25 and 45 miles per hour when the torque converter tries to lock. That vibration is almost always degraded fluid, not engine trouble. Manual transmissions aren't immune. Gear oil collects microscopic metal particles from normal wear. Over time, these act like internal sandpaper. Difficulty engaging second or third gear, soft metallic sounds while shifting, or a rough shifter feel are early warnings many drivers ignore. Transmission damage rarely happens overnight. It builds slowly, and once symptoms are obvious, repairs are rarely cheap. That's why checking fluid condition after year 3 can prevent failures that cost thousands. Next, we move to a system that affects power, emissions, and even safety, often without making noise. Number 2. Perform a deep inspection of the exhaust system. After 3 years, the exhaust system starts aging from the inside out. Moisture from condensation, heat cycles, and natural corrosion slowly weaken pipes, joints, and internal components. The problem is that early exhaust failures are often silent, no loud noise, no obvious warning, yet they directly affect power, fuel economy, emissions, and even safety. Rust usually begins in the resonator and muffler, then works its way forward. Small internal leaks can appear long before you hear a metallic rattle. A minor leak before the catalytic converter is especially dangerous because it tricks oxygen sensors into reading incorrect data. The engine responds by enriching the fuel mixture, which means higher fuel consumption and reduced performance. Some leaks sound like a faint hiss during acceleration and are often mistaken for engine or fan noise. Left unchecked, heat from escaping gases can damage nearby wiring, coils, or hoses. Oxygen sensors themselves also age after year 3, especially in cars used for short trips. Slow or inaccurate sensors cause poor throttle response, increased fuel use, and check engine lights. Ignoring them can overload and damage the catalytic converter. And once the catalytic converter begins to clog, symptoms escalate quickly. Power loss on hills, sluggish acceleration, strange exhaust smells, and rising engine temperatures. At that point, repairs become very expensive. That's why mechanics inspect the exhaust system closely after year 3, not just for noise but for hidden damage. Now comes the most important rule of all, the one that decides whether your car stays reliable or slowly falls apart. Number 1. Follow real preventive maintenance based on mileage and time. This is the most important rule of all, more important than any single inspection or cleaning. Preventive maintenance is what separates a car that ages gracefully from one that starts failing without obvious reasons. Many drivers believe that if a car runs well, it doesn't need service. That belief is exactly why cars begin to fail after the 3rd year. Maintenance is not done because something feels wrong. It's done so things never get the chance to go wrong. Every fluid, seal, belt, hose, and sensor has a lifespan influenced by both mileage and time. Even a low-mileage car ages. Fluids oxidize, rubber dries out, sensors slow down, electrical components lose efficiency. The manufacturer's service schedule is not a suggestion, it is a survival guide. Annual inspections, even for lightly driven vehicles, allow small problems to be caught early. Tiny coolant leaks, weakening batteries, aging belts, contaminated fluids, slow sensors. Fixing these early costs very little. Ignoring them leads to breakdowns that cost thousands. Cars don't start failing after 3 years because they're poorly built. They fail because owners trust that they're still new. That's the most expensive mistake of all. Consistent maintenance prevents overheating, preserves performance, avoids electrical issues, and keeps the car operating the way it did on day 1. It may not sound exciting, but disciplined maintenance is what keeps a vehicle alive. If this helped you, subscribe, leave a like, and comment which tip surprised you most. Your comment might keep another driver off the tow truck and on the road where they belong.